My job here is done. But you didn't do anything.
Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's back to some off-brand aggro. We're trying the new unit Arunka today, and these are the stats. It's not, like the higher skier score. She's on the squishier side, but I thought I'm using her more aggressively anyway, especially with CR pushers like Flitica and stuff. So I'm just seeing how it goes. I'm really intrigued by her damage amp into shields and extinction, so I think she might have a niche, and that's what we're testing today, and the artifact matches that. And the attack's a little bit low, but we have pen set, so I'm hoping that makes up a little bit of the difference. And yeah, sorry if my quality is still not up to par. I'm just really jet lagged and trying to get back into my regularly 2-week schedule. But thank you all for your patience, and especially thank you all for your support. I'm about to hit a really big milestone I didn't think I was actually gonna hit. But yeah, let's get into today's video. Oh, and let's get to the point of today's video, which is basically to test Arunka. There's not going to be a lot of explaining to do, as I'm just going to try my best to make Arunka work. And I am going to try not to pick Payra so early, because Arunka is not good into Klee, which is one of the weaknesses of the unit, which is fine. It's fine for a unit to have weaknesses, but usually units have strengths to pair with those weaknesses, and I feel like she just doesn't. But yeah, I actually pick up APOC because Arunka actually does not do too well into APOC, and not doing well into a unit is fine, but it's a unit everyone has and everyone tries their best to use, so I pick it to take it off the table, and the rest of my picks are kind of reactionary. AOL is not the greatest pick into DJB, but it's to threaten the DJB ban and then to silence everything else. And then hand guy because, we're playing standard, quote unquote, so might as well pick the busted standard units, My opponent recognizes that I'm picking a lot of single target, which is another, one of the things that Arunka does not provide is AoE damage, which is very fair. So they pick Steny, and I think the last pick here was... Okay, this was a while ago, so I don't really remember. Oh, yeah. It's Spirit Eye Celine, which Arunka actually could be good into because she cannot crit, and she has a follow-up hit if you soul burn. So it could be a guaranteed kill. So I ban Payra here because I think the mitigation would be too much if they ban my AOL, and luckily that's what happens. So I'm pretty excited to try her out. I recalled Hwayoung after trying her for a bit, and it I just couldn't get her to work either. So I'm very hopeful to see what Arunka can do. This is the perfect situation. Well, not the perfect, but it's a good usage case. There's targets with barriers on them already. There's a unit that doesn't like being crit, so maybe I can use her S1 to some effect. My opponent's DJB outspeeds me, and they set up all their stuff. It's whatever. And yeah, and remember when I said in the stat video that Arunka has some weaknesses that I needed to draft around? Yeah, I didn't do that too well this game because Arunka has no defensive passives. I think that's one of the biggest differentiation points from Hwayoung, aside from her busted S3 damage. Hwayoung's, not Arunka's. Arunka's S3 damage is mediocre at best. But so yeah, she just dies to Steny, which is one of the issues. Most bruisers nowadays have some sort of defensive utility where Arunka does not. So I just have to, at this point in the game, I thought it was cope, couldn't make Arunka work. I'm a flop. Arunka's a flop, but my carrot luckily has enough effectiveness to land the burn. She has around 100, so it's the I think this is the meta carrot build to have some effectiveness. So that works out. So we're able to chunk Arrowell enough to the point where I think APOC S3 will bring Arunka back. And so it's still a showcase because she technically shows up to do something at the end, you know? I didn't get an attack buff on her with Handguy S3, but it's okay because she self-buffs herself. So let's see this S3 damage. It was kind of bad. I'm not gonna lie. Like, she's on pen set, and he has no mitigation. So only doing 12k on an S3 with like a 4-turn cooldown is kinda bad. I'm not gonna lie. But you know, we're just gonna keep going. What other choice do we have? We slowly work down DJB and like, wow, look, it's the use case of Arunka. She can't crit. She's an ML Celine killer. I can't even convince myself, like, you know. I sold her just to get the guaranteed hit. And since it's Grace of Growth, she didn't have enough damage to fully hit on the S1 to proc her passive, but it's okay, whatever, we killed her anyway. We're just gonna move straight on into the next match. And yeah, like this is the problem, like I felt this a lot. I played like around 20 games with Arunka, and I just felt like when she lost, it felt really bad because she didn't do enough for the role that I intended to draft her around. And when she wins, it feels like she didn't really do anything. Like that Arunka there could have been like a Steny, it could have been like even a Watcher Shuri would have been better, because at least Watcher Shuri provides Sashay and that speed imprint. But I feel like Arunka, like what does Arunka provide, you know? Like, and I don't feel like Arunka should be that hard to draft. Like FCC, DN, Handguy, like these are all popular units that come with barriers. So like her best use case, or like what seems to be your best use case, should be like plenty abundant. So like, and then into this match, like you can tell that I picked slightly more aggressively. This is like the phase into the testing period where I decided that Bruiser Arunka in like standard with my build at least was not very feasible. So I was just seeing if I could take advantage of her into more aggressive lineups, especially against ones that pick like FCC or SC Arrowell, but not SC Arrowell. You can't S3 SC Arrowell. Like my max damage with Vigor onto an SC Arrowell was like 19k, and there's no way, like no Arrowell in like the Emperor range is gonna be under 20k HP. So I banned Lionheart Surmia here, thinking that there's just too many ways to proc her and I can just deal with Luna, but stay tuned because that is not what happened. I just S1 into DN because I didn't want to break Luna's barrier or Celine's. I wasn't sure which one I want to go into. I honestly should have checked Celine's EE to see if I could use my skills, but it's okay. Well, this was like done at 2 a.m. when I was jet lagged as hell. So we're good, we're good. The opponent opts to press their buttons, and I only get a crown stun on their FCC, which is like tragic. I didn't want to press S3 in case I did enough damage to Luna, and I'm pretty hopeful for this. There's attack imprint from Moonlight Silius, and it was through a barrier, and it's elementally advantageous, but this is one of those tanky counter Lunas apparently, and it just didn't do enough damage to kill, and that's just very disappointing because I had the maximum damage from the artifact too to go along with it. And it's just one of the things that I don't like about Arunka right now is that I feel like she doesn't have anything that she does particularly well, if it makes sense, you know? Like her S3 has like conditional damage amp and extinction, so it seems like something that you'd use for like a turn 1 nuke, but it does so little damage that I'm not too sure how I'm supposed to like how that fits in, you know? Like I've heard that her S1, especially with like follow-up procs and tooth, does a lot of damage, but if that's the case, why does her S3 have like a conditional for like 170% extra damage plus extinction, you know? And her passive, which provides the attack boost, provides a CR push if the enemy takes a turn with a barrier. So it doesn't seem like it's a turn 1 unit either, but that's fine. But she doesn't have defensive utility either. So it just feels like her kit is like a lot of what was wrong with like Pirate Captain Flan, where it's just like there's like the tools to make a good kit, but not a coherent. The ones that are present right now aren't coherent, and they don't add up too well. In this match, you know, my opponent picks Ruel, which I found was like really surprising. I think they meant to pick Bunny Dom. My old guildmate used to do this a lot, but and they picked Stenny and Edward, and Stenny and Edward are incredibly bad into Moonlight Vivian, so that's what I opt into picking. As well as DJ and AOL to discourage cleave, you know? Like, that's the thing. It is a fair criticism that I'm not using Arunka in the way that she was designed. It's just I'm just trying my best to make her work into aggro. And I feel like for aggro, she's kind of like middling, as you can see, you know? Like, my gear isn't the best, but it's also like not the worst. Cope. I banned Pay right here because getting outsped is really annoying. And I'm a turn 1 player, so whatever. Vigor actually does boost her damage a lot because she self-attack buffs, so I'm hoping maybe with Vigor she'll be able to be useful for once. I don't think Arunka was a good pick here either, to be honest. I'm just trying to get out some content, you know? This Ruel here resists my Flitica reset, but my Flitica has like 100 effectiveness on top of my Sea Lily, so I just got 15%. And this is gonna come into play later, but Rimuru steals stealth, and I was so excited when this first happened. I was like, oh, my mind is just so powerful to get this play to hit Stenny. It was all planned. Stenny gets extinction, which is like great. So Stenny can't also be revived because of the extinction, which is like, this is like the use case I was like thinking of using her as. Like, if you pick her aggressively into revivers, like maybe if she did enough damage, it would be good. That S3 onto the team might have been a mistake because my what's-her-face is provoked, and she actually does have debuff, so Edward can slap back a lot of debuffs back into her team if we're unlucky enough, so that's just something to watch out for. And this Rimuru not getting killed is also kind of an issue. I think I should have reset the Rimuru instead, because neither of these units are too threatening into Moonlight Vivian if they don't have cooldowns, and of course I hit when I don't want to because, you know, it's epicseven, like, you can't have fun. I try my best to sweep his team with Moonlight Vivian, but the S3 that's about to come here I think is about to kill me. So after that it's pretty much done. Yeah. Her S1 having debuffs is just not great into this meta where there's a lot of units that punish you for having debuffs. So that's something to watch out for. Yeah, rip. My Vivian dies, so this is like almost guaranteed to be a loss unless I can somehow cycle and survive with Arunka, except she doesn't cycle and she doesn't have a defensive utility, so like I was just really tilted at this point. Like, by no means am I trying to tell people like not to build Arunka. Like, if you really like her design or her playstyle and you find it good, like, I'm not here to stop you. I'm just here to say that for aggressive playstyle, it's just not the best option. Yeah, I really regret pulling her. Like, I went almost to pity, which is like, yikes, you know. Yeah, this match is basically over. Like, Arunka just doesn't bring enough to the table, and I think that's more of a statement to how busted units are in epicseven right now, and not how bad she is as a unit. It's just how imbalanced some of the other DPSs are, or how we're accustomed to. Like, yeah, I think when my Silius dies, I just give it up because there's really no point after that because she doesn't outspeed anything. But oh, look at that sick damage, sick vigor damage, 9k. Not bad, but like, there's something to write home about. And this is on pen set too, so like, and yeah, R.I.P. Aranca. Oh no, she just dies here. But you know, we tried our best. Oh yeah, very tragic. This is one of the rare games where my opponent picks fun units because they see I'm trying to test fun units. Like, my opponent's a good, well, I was gonna say my opponent's a good person, but they first pick Shu with a Shu rep, so you all know he's a terrible person. So like, there's no barrier, but you know, like, she doesn't care if she misses a crit, and elementally advantageous. My opponent immediately picks Edward, which is like PTSD from the last match. Like, fuck. And DN, which is like annoying for the anti-crit, but I guess Arunka doesn't care, so I most likely am going to try and pick aggressively because picking standard into casino units like Shu or Edward when you have debuffs is just not a fun time. And Moonlight Vivian is just really good into this meta. My opponent picks Solitaria. I'm banning Solitaria. I don't have a choice. Because she invalidates my Sylvan Sage Vivian. My opponent picks Sharon here. And I'm like very surprised because I haven't seen her in forever. And I heard she's pretty copium too, even though Venom sounds like something that would be good into like slower drafts, but tragic. I really want to see what Sharon does, and I'm excited to see if I can finally get Arunka to do something in a match, because like I've played like 10 matches by this point and she hasn't been doing too hot. And it's just like the thing where it's like Arunka either gets carried or she doesn't do enough and it feels bad. Well, I guess it feels bad both ways, but we're just trying it out. I'm surprised my opponent still has like a 280 DN, which isn't like super common anymore, but she actually goes for the reset onto Hangai and gets it, which is like, damn fam, get it, I guess. And their Edward gets to go on S3. I'm surprised they didn't run it into Arunka, but I think they're just trying to let me have fun. It's like, thank you for that. So yeah, let's see it this time. Elementally advantageous penetration with a barrier, and it does like, I guess like with a barrier you can count it as like 18, 19k, but that's still really bad. Like, ooh. You know? And I just opt to reset Sharoons, which can't like keep skill resetting my hand guy, and like hopefully my Moonlight Vivian can carry because my Arunka's not doing anything. Oh my god, this unit's so bad. In aggro. Okay, that's what I'll say. Arunka, like, this Sims match is like mostly over. Like, my Sylvan Sage Vivian's gonna solo carry this match at this point because there's nothing that really deals with her too well on the enemy team. So I'll just finish off with my conclusions that Arunka, at least in standard, not standard, at least in like aggressive or cleave drafts, is a very mediocre unit, and I would not recommend building her for that purpose unless you really like her and want to use her, because like, valid honestly. Even in standard, I feel she's not too great, but I don't have a lot of the standard answers built, so that might explain it. Like I don't have like a Destina or like whatever, so like that might be it. But currently, as it stands, Arunka is a very mediocre unit, and since the meta is so aggressive and cleave oriented, I feel like the use case for is very limited. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Please like and subscribe.